Successful investing isn't about some secret code or finding a magic formula. It's really about building wealth over time by following a few clear, repeatable rules. Rules that honestly are designed to protect you from the single biggest threat to your money, which is, you guessed it, yourself. So let's dive into the 10 rules that can really make a difference.
And there you have it. The legendary investor Benjamin Graham, Warren Buffett's mentor, said it perfectly. The investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself. See, the biggest battle you're ever going to face isn't with the market, it's with your own emotions. It's that pit in your stomach during a downturn, or that fear of missing out when everyone else seems to be getting rich. So rule number 1, the most important rule of all, conquer yourself first.
That's the real question, isn't it? How do you actually get out of your own way and master your own psychology? Well, the answer is to stop acting on impulse and start following a process. You need a set of rules that keep you steady when your emotions are just screaming at you to do the exact opposite. And that brings us to rule number 2. Have a process, and for goodness sake, stick to it.
I love this slide because it shows the two paths you can take. On one side, you've got the gambler, constantly reacting to headlines, chasing the latest trend, needing that adrenaline rush. And on the other side, you have the investor. The investor follows a system, trusts the fundamentals, and totally understands that, more often than not, the most profitable path is, well, the most boring one. And that's rule number 3. Be an investor, not a gambler. Okay, so our first section is all about building your internal framework. Because here's the thing, before you can make a single successful move in the market, you absolutely have to build the right mindset. Think of it as your mental armor. It is by far your most important asset.
So how do you build this armor? Well, it really comes down to 3 key steps, which make up our next set of rules. First, you've got to expand your knowledge to really, truly understand what you're buying. Second, you have to actively work on mastering your own psychology, recognizing your biases before they cost you money. And third, you have to lengthen your time horizon. Start thinking in decades, not days. Let's break these down.
And this brilliantly illustrates a core part of that knowledge base, your circle of competence. You do not need to be an expert on everything. You just need to deeply, deeply understand the things you own. If you can't explain how an asset makes money in simple terms to a 5-year-old, you probably have no business putting your hard-earned money there. This is rule number 4, and it's a big one. Stay within your circle of competence.
So the bottom line is this: your knowledge is the one asset that can never, ever be taken away from you. This means learning the language of business, studying your own emotional triggers, reviewing your past decisions, the good and the bad, without ego, and just ruthlessly cutting out all the noise from your life. This is our 5th rule: invest in yourself.
This quote just gets right to the heart of lengthening your time horizon. See, compounding is like a force of nature, but it's incredibly slow at first. It starts out almost invisible. And most people, they get impatient. They quit during this boring phase. But the real, explosive, life-changing returns, they only come to those who are patient enough to survive the boredom. That's rule number 6. Be patient.
Okay, so now that your mindset is in the right place, it's time to turn all that knowledge into a repeatable strategy. This next section is all about the practical, day-to-day actions that separate the truly successful investors from the rest of the crowd.
Just look at this. This right here is the magic of consistency. A single big bet, that first bar, might seem exciting, but it is nothing compared to the power of making small, consistent investments over time. As you can see, after 5 years, you start to build something real. But over 20 years, whoa, the growth just becomes exponential. And that is rule number 7. Invest consistently. And what exactly are you investing in? Not hype, not stories. You're investing in quality. A quality asset has customers who will still need its products in a decade. It produces real, growing cash. It has a healthy financial foundation and what's called a moat, something that protects it from competitors. That's our 8th rule: invest in quality. Now, a lot of people think that just owning a bunch of random stocks is diversification. It's not. As this slide shows, that's really just a random collection of mistakes. Intelligent diversification means you deliberately own assets that don't all move in the same direction. It creates fire breaks in your portfolio, so one problem in one area doesn't burn the whole thing down. This is rule number 9, diversify intelligently. And a huge part of that intelligent structure is a cash buffer. Now please, do not think of this as lazy money. It's not. It is a powerful strategic tool. It protects you from being forced to sell your best investments at the worst possible time, and it gives you the firepower to buy when everyone else is panicking. Cash buys you stability and opportunity. And that's our 10th and final rule. Maintain a cash buffer.
Okay, this is one of the most important concepts that supports all of these rules, the margin of safety. It's simply the cushion between the price you pay for something and the value you actually get. A rational investor always demands a cushion. This is what protects you when you make a mistake or when just plain bad luck strikes. You buy value, not just a price tag.
So how do you make sure you're actually being rational? How do you keep yourself honest? It's simple. You write it down. You keep a journal of your investment decisions. Why did you buy it? What was your thesis? This simple act forces you to be clear and helps you separate skill from just dumb luck. It allows you to learn from what you actually did, not what you wish you did.
All right, this brings us to our final section, which is really about the ultimate goal of all these rules. It's about making a fundamental shift in your identity from someone who just rents ideas to someone who actually builds lasting wealth.
This is the final transformation. You stop renting trends, holding things just because they're popular and everyone's clapping, and you start building value by owning quality assets for their fundamental long-term strength. You're no longer just a passenger along for the ride. You're the pilot.
So, let's just leave you with this final thought. The most important investment you will ever make. It isn't a stock, it's not a bond, it's not a piece of real estate.
It's a process. A repeatable rhythm of small, smart, consistent actions that you can keep doing for years and years. That's what successful investors actually trust. It's the ultimate rule that ties all the others together.
You don't need luck, and you certainly don't need a miracle. You just need a process. So the only question left to ask yourself is, what rhythm will you start today?